Thank you. Hi, thanks for joining me. My name is Dawn Franz, and I am the nutritional health coach at the Natural Grocers on North Academy in Colorado Springs. At Natural Grocers, I offer classes there as well. I'm really excited that I can offer classes for the Pikes Peak Library District. A lot of these same classes and different topics are offered at the store now too for free, twice a month. If you check in on our website, naturalgrocers.com, you will be able to find my store, the North Academy store, and you can see what classes I have available. I do have a background in nutrition. I have a bachelor's in nutritional science and dietetics training. And I've been lucky to kind of grow up with Natural Grocers. I've been working for them for 20 years now, and it's been wonderful as far as learning so much in natural foods, which I'm interested in. I love to learn more, and there's kind of endless information out there on nutrition. But I love to be able to support myself and my family, and also being able to help and teach others about how nutrition can support their health. Before I get started, though, on this class called Power of Probiotics and Fermented Foods for Optimal Health, I just wanted to give you a really quick note on some legislation that I think I encourage you to look into if you take dietary supplements and they support your health and you want to have them available. If you go to naturalgrocers.com, you will find a link to click on just right on our first website when you get there to take action. Congress, there's some legislation that could limit our access and make it harder for manufacturers to get their product to market, and it might be returning some of the some of the legislation that protects dietary supplements. So I encourage you, if you value nutritional supplements and really want to have them available, please go to our website, and then we'll send you to a link to take some action and let your Congress members know that supplements are important for your health. Thank you. So on to probiotics. Probiotics, the information and research in probiotics has definitely boomed in the last 10 to 15 years. There's a lot of exciting research to find out that they're not just about digestion, although that's a really key important thing that they do. So before we get started, I want to just read a quick disclaimer that dietary supplement, first off, this class isn't intended to treat or diagnose or mitigate any disease. And then if you are taking dietary supplements, including a probiotic supplement or foods, they can interact with prescription medication. So just make sure that you're aware of any possible interactions. Check in with your doctor or your pharmacist so that you are aware and know what to look out for. And then Natural Grocers, I mentioned, is an awesome company to work for because they're within their five founding principles. Nutrition education is #1. So they want to offer this nutrition education to our customers, to our community, to allow people to know how to support their health and to feel vital and have that optimal health. We also are a real health food store. We have very high quality standards. We only carry 100% organic produce. And if you look in our other departments, our meat, dairy, our egg departments, they have very high standards too for the farmers, to make sure that they are looking out for the welfare of the animals and also supporting the earth and the health of our environment, which in turn helps to support a healthy animal and healthy food for you. So that is something that's really important to us and with the farmers that we're doing business with. We do believe that health is something that is a right that everyone should have, and so we offer everyday affordable pricing. You'll see that in a lot of our sales, our Natural Grocers line, really good quality and offered at an affordable price. We love to support our communities, and we also do educate our employees on nutrition and health for their own benefit, but also so they can support you. And so we do have great employees, and they're very knowledgeable. So let's get started on talking about probiotics and a little bit of history on bacteria. So going back since this discovery of bacteria over 300 years ago, humans have kind of categorized them as dangerous or pathogenic or germs, and generally it was thought that we should avoid or try to eradicate them. And so these bacteria that we couldn't even see, we're afraid of, right? Anthony van Leeuwenhoek discovered protozoa. Those are single-celled organisms, and he called them animalcules. Ever since that discovery, we have attributed all sorts of health issues to these microbes and worked to eradicate them. And then we discovered penicillin in the 1920s, and that has saved many lives and many wars. However, antibiotics have become fairly overprescribed as medication for even non-bacterial infections. So with this over-hygienic treatment and environment, it's known for having repercussions on our health, and we are dealing with those to this day. An example of this might, providing clean water to everyone on the planet has been a major health goal for decades. But scientists have warned that while it reduces the chance of catching a deadly disease, it could also increase the risk of asthma, or likely due to the lack of proper microbial stimulation required for healthy immune development early in life. Our immune system does need to come in contact with germs so that it can react and remember those germs and develop its memory, basically. And so our immune system does need to be stimulated a little bit. Well, it turns out that a lot of these microorganisms are not harmful at all, and actually they're beneficial. And also that bacteria can be found on almost every surface of the human body. And in fact, the digestive tract houses about 4 to 5 pounds of bacteria. That's a lot to think about, especially when these are microscopic, right? So this collection of gut bacteria is called the gut microbiota. And they all kind of work together in that environment. And so many of these bacteria are not harmful at all, and in fact, actually very helpful. And humans have what we call like a symbiotic relationship with the microbes. So they support our health, and we actually support their growth, right? So just a little bit more information. We'll talk about the Human Genome Project, and that kind of leads into like a lot of probiotic research. Excuse me, it's allergy. I mean, it's summertime, but I've got a lot of allergies, so I need to be taking a sip of water here and there. Okay, so excuse me, one moment. Thank you for bearing with me. All right, so the sequencing of the human genome has been referred to as one of the greatest scientific achievements of our time. And the genome that is like the blueprint for the human biology, and this project was a 13-year-long publicly funded project that started in 1990, and it went on for like 15 years. It took them that long to sequence all of our human genes. And so our DNA is something that is unique, and it makes up our all the things that make us unique, like our height, our eye color, hair color. And so in addition to human genome, we've also been able to unlock the genetic code of a lot of other organisms. Oops. Sorry. Okay. And we started to look at even what we think of as like simpler organisms and compare. And so our human genome and the genes that we have in our DNA range from about 20,000 to 25,000 genes. And scientists were kind of perplexed when they found out like simpler organisms like a grain of rice or wheat, like rice had 55,000 genes and wheat had 164,000 genes. So why is it that these more simple organisms have more genes than we do? Well, the thing is that we didn't take into account is that the genetic material that makes us up is almost 90% microbial. So I think I mentioned that we have microbes all of our body and our ear, nose, and throat, our gut, all over. And those microbes have genes that actually influence the function of our body. So your inherited genes are kind of more or less like fixed, and they do change a little bit with your environment. But your second, so we call these the microbial genome, like our second genome. But that's something that you can actually influence with your environment, your diet, whether you are introducing any of these good bacteria through your diet or supplements. And so your microbiota is estimated to contain between 3 to 8 million genes. So if we add that in with our genes, then it kind of makes more sense as far as us, but we are a complicated microorganism if you take that into account. So why do we even have microbiota in our body? Well, for one, we do have this mutualistic relationship, which you can see that in different species, and you can see that other areas in nature where the microbiota helps to support our digestion, our immune system, helps to protect us from local infections. And in turn, we shelter it, right? We provide nutrients from our diet to feed it. So we have this symbiotic relationship, and we truly are a super organism if we take into account this microbiota. So where do we have all these microbes? I mean, literally everywhere. This chart really kind of illustrates that. But, and we've got some in the mouth, ears and throat, a little bit in the stomach, some in the small intestine, anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 bacteria per milliliter in the stomach. The small intestine. But the colon is by far the area we have the largest amount of these microbes, anywhere from like 1 million to 1 trillion bacteria in that area. And so there's different species that are isolated from different areas of the body. So they've kind of found out which probiotics tend to hang out in different areas. Like in saliva, they found samples of S. salivarius, rhamnosus, plantarum, paracasei. And then if you look at some of like the colon, there's a lot more bifidobacteria in the colon. But there's estimated to be about 500 to 1,000 different species of bacteria in our gut. And they belong to some different phyla. And these are the classes of like Firmicutes, Bacteroides. Those tend to dominate the colon. And then we also have Proteobacteria, Microbia, Actinobacteria, Fusobacteria, and Cyanobacteria. So there's a lot of different species. And then in like the urogenital tract and the vaginal tract, there's different species too that tend to colonize that area. With women, the most abundant microorganisms in the vaginal tract tend to be more of the lactobacillus. And they reside there to help keep pathogens down. They produce hydrogen peroxide and lactic acid that helps to keep the pH in a less hospitable pH for the growth of other types of bacteria. And then the skin tends to have more streptococcal bacteria than other areas. So overall, they estimate there's like 100 trillion bacteria living in the human gastrointestinal tract. And so there's studies that indicate people living in developed countries have about a third less diversity of people in underdeveloped countries, or that people that are eating like a traditional diet that might include more probiotic bacteria. So your diet really can encourage more of a variety. Like if we look at our ancestors hunter-gatherers, we can look at some tribes that still eat their traditional diet, like the Hazda hunter-gatherers, and they have such a wider range of different species of bacteria because they're eating a wider variety of foods, natural foods, and they're not doing a lot of things that cause the bacteria to be diminished. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that mutualistic relationship between microbes and animals. We definitely see that there's no exception that the total number of microbes that colonize our body surface exceeds the total number of Homo sapien cells. So we're really more microbe than we are human cells. And so, excuse me. And when we have a disruption in this type of bacteria, in any of the areas of the body, we can have disruptions in our health. We might have issues with our immune function, our brain function even, and we'll talk about that and how that's affected, our appetite and metabolism. We may have more or less inflammation depending on the types of bacteria we may have, as well as our skin health. There's a connection with the right types of bacteria in the gut. So we're going to talk about all those and how your microbiota can influence the health of those different areas. So even it's almost like DNA, no one really has the same bacterial profile. We do tend to share bacteria with our families, depending on the types of foods you might eat, similar foods as your families. So it's really very unique, almost like a bacterial fingerprint. And like I said, that fingerprint is shaped by our environment. Like if we're exposed to toxins, environment includes the foods. It may include, stress. Higher stress can contribute to a lower growth of good bacteria. If we have an unhealthy diet, it's not going to feed the growth of good bacteria. So those things really can color the health of your microbiota. And then that contributes to whether you have some health problems associated with that or whether you may have optimal health. So it all comes down to balance. You need healthy bacteria to keep your gut and ecosystem healthy. And healthy bacteria like lactobacilli interact with the food compounds in our gut and may produce compounds like short-chain fatty acids that actually support the immune system there in the gut. There's several bacteria that help to produce vitamins that we can benefit from in our gut, neurotransmitters, and even immunomodulatory compounds, all from the types of foods that we're eating. So we'll talk more about what types of food feed the good bacteria in a little bit. But let's kind of talk about where do we get all this bacteria from the beginning. Babies are kind of more or less sterile before they are born, and they get their first microbes from their mother. When they go through the birth canal, they are opening their mouths, and so they're getting and swallowing lactobacillus type bacteria. If they're born vaginally. If babies are born via C-section, they might have a different type of bacterial profile in their guts initially. They might have more streptococcal bacteria or skin type bacteria because they're coming through another way, through the skin. Although, as if they're breastfed, breastfeeding does actually support and transfer some of those beneficial microbes, so that can help sway that balance, even if the baby was born C-section. And then later on, past infancy, as they start to eat foods, then that can actually support beneficial bacteria, and the bacteria makeup can change. It's really important if a baby is born C-section to just offer them extra probiotics when they're little and as their children are growing, to really make sure that they're replenishing and getting the right types of bacteria in their gut. And it really is something like we kind of have like that stable core of bacteria that we get actually from birth, but it can vary and change depending on our health and like I said, other environmental factors. So one of the ways to shape and cultivate healthy microbiota is to consume probiotic-rich fermented foods. Hopefully you're kind of thinking about, do I eat any fermented foods? Well, hopefully you at least have tried yogurt before, and maybe you enjoy yogurt on a daily basis. That's a great fermented food. But a lot of ancient cultures use fermentation as a way to not only preserve food, but also to enhance health. That fermentation helps to break down a lot of those foods and make them more digestible, especially in the case of some things that might not have been super digestible before. A traditional, as you can see down in the picture on the right, that's a picture of natto beans. So those are soybeans, and soybeans are difficult to digest just on their own, and they have a lot of phytic acid. They can cause a lot of gas and bloating. But when you ferment them, the fermentation breaks down a lot of those undigestible parts of that food, and it makes it easier to digest. Plus, you get to consume the good bacteria at the same time. So like miso, natto bean, it actually makes the food more digestible, and it supports your microbiota. But when cultures move away from their traditional diets, you often, and they tend to maybe leave off some of these traditional foods, you'll see that they'll suffer more from increased rates of Western disease. But fermented foods is something that most cultures have consumed throughout the centuries. Sour milk products and lactic acid fermented foods have been a dietary staple for thousands of years. Early writings show that Chinese workers ate acid fermented vegetables while they were building the Great Wall of China. The Japanese have routinely served a small serving of pickled vegetables with their meals. And century ago, Koreans started making kimchi, which is acid fermented cabbage, and other types of fermented vegetables. Even the Greeks wrote about the health benefits of fermented cabbage. The Romans used sauerkraut to treat and prevent intestinal infections. And if you know who Captain Cook is, but he used sauerkraut and lime juice to prevent scurvy on his 3-year journey around the world. So throughout Europe, Russia, and the Balkans, things like sauerkraut, lactobacillus, lactic acid fermented veggies like beet kvass or yogurt and kefir and borscht, these are all foods that are included in their diet. And so even in African cultures, they still routinely use lactic acid fermented way of preserving, like a gruel that they eat made out of sorghum and corn. And I imagine too that does increase the digestibility of that grain type product. So unfortunately, over the past century, many of the probiotic foods have fallen out of favor due to the changes in the way that we preserve foods, right? So particularly vegetables, they preferably are frozen or canned, and so you don't need to, preserve vegetables in vinegar or pickle them to keep them. And we get vegetables available all year round in our supermarkets. So that's one of the reasons we've kind of gone away from fermented vegetables, but you can definitely see that it has affected digestive health. So you can definitely consume more of those probiotic type foods, which is beneficial. But also, in addition to that, you can consider taking a probiotic supplement. So let's kind of talk about how those probiotics work when they come in the supplemental form. They can support your overall health by just harnessing that power of our symbiotic relationship with these good bacteria. So a probiotic, technically as defined by the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, is defined as classically a viable microbial dietary supplement that beneficially affects the host through its effects in the intestinal tract. They're also called friendly bacteria, good bacteria. This all sounds great for health, right? And probiotics are available to consumers mainly in the form of supplements and foods, yogurt and fermented foods, as well as lactic acid producing supplements. So those beneficial bacteria can produce compounds that interact with our nervous system and our immune system. And you've probably heard this before, that all health does begin in the gut, and it really is true if you can see how it links to all these other areas of the body. a lot of probiotics are capable of affecting digestive function and regularity by supporting that healthy microbial balance. According to Ayurveda, it is important to evacuate the bowels every morning, and that's simple enough, or so it sounds, but why is it so important? Well, when we are regularly moving our bowels, we are able to eliminate toxins that might build up. If you don't, you're going to reabsorb those toxins back into the system, and it's just another, more work for the liver. It helps to maintain optimal nutritional status. Infrequent bowel movements are associated with neurological disease and cardiovascular issues, and it also supports intestinal health. There's less inflammation, there's less chance of bad bacteria overgrowing. And so there's a couple supplements or probiotic supplements you might consider if regularity is an issue for you. It's usually one of the main things people notice first as far as their health benefits. There's a healthy probiotic yeast called Saccharomyces boulardii, or S. boulardii for short, and that has been shown to support digestion in people that are traveling abroad. When you're traveling, often you're not drinking enough water, and that's usually one of the first things that shows up. You aren't going to the bathroom as regularly. So it's a great one to take with you if you're traveling. And then there's a couple other lactobacillus type probiotics that are great for supporting regularity. The Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG is a very well studied strain. It is marketed, I know, in our store under Culturel is the marketed name of Lactobacillus GG. But if you get a multi-strain product, you're probably going to cut these other ones: the Lactobacillus casei, Acidophilus, Plantarum, Bulgaricus, Reuteri. Reuteri tends to come separately than others. Bifidobacteria bifidum and Bifidobacteria infantis. So those are some to look out for regularity. So probiotics, while they're in the gut, do produce some other compounds that can support our health. They are lactic acid producing, and that helps to maintain a healthy pH, and that helps to make sure that we're not providing a hospital environment for unhealthy bacteria and maintaining the growth of good bacteria. They also produce some enzymes that help us digest our foods, especially enzymes like lactase. There's studies showing that people that have trouble digesting lactose, if they do take a probiotic supplement, that they might be better able to tolerate it when they're taking that probiotic supplement, because certain strains of probiotic produce lactase, which is an enzyme that helps to digest lactose, and that would help with some of those symptoms like the gas and bloating, or other digestive issues. Also, one research trial did show that lactose intolerant individuals that took Lactobacillus reuteri, it showed improved symptoms when they ingested the dairy products. So is it really the dairy products, or is it more digestion and having the right microbiota that would allow us to digest dairy products better? And this is kind of the most interesting and trippy aspect, I think, is how probiotics can influence neurotransmitters, and they function can be how they function in the enteric nervous system. So that's the gut nervous system, as well as how those neurotransmitters interact with the central nervous system. So we do have a lot of receptor sites for neurotransmitters in our gut, and the good bacteria can help us make more of these neurotransmitters, GABA, which is calming, dopamine, our reward neurotransmitter, and helps us feel good and be focused. Serotonin is our calming and just our joy type of neurotransmitter. Norepinephrine is also one that's stimulating. Histamine and acetylcholine. So all of these are neurotransmitters that affect our brain, our central nervous system, and they are affected and produced by some of the bacteria in our gut. Probiotic bacteria also produce some other cool products that help to keep the colon healthy. When they ferment some of the fibers from our diet, they can produce something called short-chain fatty acids, such as butyrate, which is a short-chain fatty acid compound. And butyrate is supposed to help with colon health, supporting the health of the lining in the intestine, It's been shown to help with healthy appetite and modulate immune function. So when we eat fiber, our good bacteria digest that and create those short-chain fatty acids. And then some of the vitamins are produced actually by the good bacteria in our gut. Vitamin K1 is a vitamin that we get from green leafy veggies, but we can, through the gut bacteria, convert K1 into K2. And K2 has some unique effects on the body. It supports cardiovascular function and bone health, whereas K1 doesn't do that. So it is actually essential to be able to convert that. You can take it separately, but why not support your microbiota? And then also lastly, consuming probiotics has been shown to boost the body's natural free radical response. So any support the production of compounds that help to balance free radical production. And probiotics support our immune system. There's a couple different ways. So our intestinal cells, or our gut barrier, is a pretty thin layer. Those cells can be disrupted easily due to inflammation or things that we're consuming in our diet, stress. So probiotics help produce an immune complex called secretory IgA, and that's an antibody that supports the immune function in the gut, and that actually can help reinforce the health of that lining in the gut, so that we're going to keep things in until they're fully digested and keep toxins out of the body and make sure that they're removed to the digestive tract. So some of the probiotics that support those things are the Lactobacillus GG. Again, that's a culturelle product. Bifidobacteria infantis, Lactobacillus acidophilus, and then we mentioned the healthy yeast, Saccharomyces boulardii. One of the things it does is help with producing more secretory IgA. And then because it's helping the immune system interact in a healthier way, it can help to modulate inflammation. If we have too much activation of the immune system is going to create more inflammation as those immune cells are coming in to kind of, take care of whatever foreign invader they think is there. But if the immune system is mounting an appropriate response, we're not going to have as much inflammation in the gut. And so a multi-strain probiotic would really help you with that, especially one that contains a lot of the bifidobacteria, as well as the Lactobacillus GG, or even the Lactobacillus casei. So it is important to have a good immune system, and 70–80% of our immune system, our immune cells, are located in the gut. So rightly so, to protect us from bacteria, pathogens, viruses that are coming in through the mouth that we're breathing in, or through our food. And a lot of probiotic bacteria make compounds that help to train our immune system, as I mentioned, so it's not overreactive or underreactive. And then those immune cells that are either taught or trained or created in the gut travel elsewhere throughout the body to the site where they are needed. And all this results in having healthier gut, healthier levels of inflammation in the gut, as well as all over the body, and can be supportive for seasonal immune support. So it is really through this gut immune access that many of the health supportive properties of probiotics are derived. When the immune system is working properly, we have healthier levels of inflammation. So our joints are feeling better, our brains are functioning better, our heart and blood vessels are functioning better with modulated inflammation, our skin even too. We're less reactive to airborne irritants, so respiratory function is improved. We're going to talk about each of these. So immune cells can leave the digestive tract and then they migrate to different areas of the body, such as the lungs, to help support respiratory tract health. So There's been studies showing that the Bifidobacterium longum really does support that respiratory tract health, as long also the Lactobacillus plantarum can really support the immune system in the gut. So not only is there a gut immune axis, but there's also a gut brain axis. It's true that probiotics support and communicate with our brain in several different ways. They communicate with the brain through the enteric nervous system. It's a highly innervated tissue, fully capable of just on its own regulating gastrointestinal functions, such as motility, mucosal secretion, and blood flow. But not only does this enteric nervous system regulate GI health, but it also there's evidence that it affects psychological effects. And we see that with irritable bowel syndrome. When you're stressed or worried, that's when you see IBS really kind of kick up, right? So we connect the brain through the vagus nerve. We produce neurotransmitters in the gut with the help of good bacteria. They, the gut up to the brainstem. So those neurotransmitters then can travel to the brain and affect brain function. So that can definitely be a good thing to support overall mental wellness. But to kind of explain how we have that interrelation, we can look at it basically some of the ways that maybe pathogenic bacteria can affect our psychological outlook. So it's kind of called microbial mind control. There are a lot of ways in which probiotics and microorganisms in the gut are able to influence our brain function. And it might seem crazy to you that microbes can control behavior, but it's really not that uncommon or unheard of. For example, like rabies, a microbial infection can change the way the brain works, right? If an animal gets exposed to the rabies virus, they develop aggression and hydrophobia, like they're afraid to drink water, and eventually when they're infected they can eventually die because of that. Another example is like with syphilis. It's caused by a spiral bacteria, and it can dement its victims. And it's thought that it has pillaged a lot of famous people in our history, like the Friedrich Nietzsche and Al Capone, just to name a few. And Candida albicans, which is a yeast that is present in normal amounts in most people, but it can overgrow if the environment is right for it. If you're eating too many sugary foods or refined foods, or if you have taken a lot of antibiotics and it's killed off a lot of your other healthy microbes, Candida can overgrow. And these fungal microorganisms have been shown in studies to be related to elevated schizophrenia. When in those studies they restored the balance of the microbes, it provided relief from schizophrenic episodes. Interesting. And so while all of the above examples most certainly represent pathogenic or parasitic relationships, they nonetheless raise the possibility that indigenous microbes, which are in constant lifelong interaction with their human and animal hosts, could influence neurological function and behavior and during development and within health. So it's becoming increasingly recognized that psychiatric and neurological illnesses are often comorbid with gastrointestinal pathology. So it's something to really look at. And we do carry some supplements that say for mood support. So there's specific probiotics and strains that can really benefit the mood. So we've looked at that in studies. Brain scans of people consuming a probiotic-rich drink showed that it activated parts of the brain responsible for emotions and emotional decision-making. And then another study, supplementation with Bifidobacteria bifidum and acidophilus and Lactobacillus casei was shown to support insulin function and healthy blood sugar balance, and also resulted in mood support in the study's participants. I recently did like a continuing education summit on diabetes support, and I was surprised that a lot of the talks focused on probiotics and how that influenced healthy blood sugar balance. It was really cool. And then as far as there was another similar study using Lactobacillus acidophilus again, Casei bifidum, and it found that these probiotics supported healthy insulin function, so allowing us to get sugar into the cells, as well as a healthy memory. So let's talk about the gut skin axis. Skin is also intimately linked to gut health. So if people are suffering more from gastrointestinal disorders, it's more likely that they would also suffer from skin issues like eczema, psoriasis, or even acne. And when we have leaky gut or an inflamed GI tract, that relates to systemic inflammation and can lead to poor skin health. So really managing that inflammation in the gut is crucial for rebalancing the health of your skin. And this is something that's been researched as far as back as the 1930s. They suspected a link between the gut and skin health. And modern research has now confirmed the importance of this relationship. Epidemiological evidence shows a clear association between gut problems and skin disorders. Studies have shown a variety of different probiotics, but definitely they focused on the bifidobacteria bifidum and Lactobacillus acidophilus, which are really common strains, and shown that they support healthy skin. So by now you're probably thinking probiotics really can benefit almost everyone. And there's some exceptional and even unexpected benefits from probiotics that I can mention too. Probiotics do need food, right? So probiotic fibers that we can consume, including one called FOS, can really support the growth of good bacteria. So there were studies showing that when people supplemented with FOS, that they had a healthier body weight, and that was a study done in children and adults. And the short-chain fatty acids that are produced by good bacteria have been shown to help reduce hunger. There's exciting new research that shows that gut microbiota assists with liver detoxification. Gut bacteria are actually capable of breaking down different drugs, and studies have shown that probiotic bacteria can facilitate the removal of things like heavy metals from the body, and a lot of strains of probiotics, especially lactobacilli, can prevent the absorption of heavy metals and pesticides. That they also help to support detoxification in the gut, and they enhance natural detoxification in the liver. So that's really kind of cool to note that probiotics can even bind to bacterial toxins and neutralize those toxins. So this is kind of a cool little chart that illustrates how some of the compounds that the good bacteria produce affect the health of our body. So the short chain fatty acids like butyrate, as you can see there, other compounds like acetate and propionate, they have been shown to help support regularity and intestinal health. Studies showing that it helps with satiety. They modulate inflammation, and they help to increase leptin, which is a hormone that helps us to feel fuller and less hungry. And these compounds even have shown to support insulin function and liver health. So all those overall support our metabolic health and have been shown in studies to help with healthy cholesterol maintenance too, and healthy blood sugar balance. So probiotics can also aid in healthy aging. There was a study that was done with aging male mice, and they supplemented them with probiotics, and they showed a rise in their testosterone levels. And then probiotics also were shown to support bone health in postmenopausal models for bone loss, which is much more difficult, right? As women age, their estrogen levels really dip naturally, And estrogen is involved with keeping the bones healthy. So it is more difficult to maintain bone mass as you get older. So to have probiotics show that they help improve bone, even in that case, is pretty interesting. And then for women's health, there's certain strains, namely lactobacillus type bacteria, that really support your genital health, and even like we saw with that study, bone health in women. We do carry a specific type of probiotic for vaginal health. It's called Femdophilus from Jarrow formulas, and they have two of the most important strains for that part of the body, the lactobacillus as well as lactobacillus reuteri. And we do sell that product. Some other kind of cool facts about how products can support health. It's been shown that Lactobacillus GG can actually repair the gut lining and the damage that can be caused when someone has gluten sensitivity or celiac disease. And there's a certain strain, Bifidobacterium longum, that has been shown to support microbial balance in people that have gluten sensitivity. And then for athletes, because they are involving their bodies in strenuous, long distance or strenuous type exercise to prepare them for sports and events, they can really affect their immune system. They can have a lot of inflammation in their body, and that can contribute to leaky gut. So they've done a lot of times they do studies with athletes to find how they can recover better and not get sick from all that strenuous exercise. So they've shown that Bifidobacteria bifidum, Lactobacillus acidophilus, and Lactobacillus brevis have been shown to support gut health in athletes and help to improve their recovery and prevent them from getting other infections. And then last but not least, we do have a lot of probiotics in the oral cavity, and getting more of those good bacteria can really support the health in that area. So to help support the health of the ear, nose, and throat, the Streptococcus salivarius or S. salivarius, the strain that has been found to support oral health and the microbiota in there, helping to freshen breath and even helping to support the teeth and the gums. All right, so I know that was quite a bit, but there's a lot of great information and research out there, and we are not just a single cell, right? There's a lot of bacteria and a lot of ways that that type of bacteria in our bodies can influence our health. Let me kind of sum up how probiotics can support health. For number one, they support the health of our gut, and within doing that helps to communicate to other tissues in the body, which helps to modulate inflammation in other areas of the body, like the joints. It helps to support healthy immune function, so then it can train immune cells to work effectively in the gut as well as elsewhere. It can be helpful for maintaining digestive health and regularity. Probiotics also do support the health of our skin and promote healthy aging by helping support hormone balance. And then one of the most interesting ways is that probiotics can support brain related to emotions and mood and decision making. And then for a healthy body, probiotics influence metabolism, appetite, body composition, and even support healthy blood sugar and healthy heart markers. So really, probiotics can benefit us all over the body and in a variety of different health outcomes. So hopefully by now you might be thinking, should I take probiotics? Well, it is important to make sure we're getting those microbes in to support all of those optimal health consequences. But the reason we probably do need to make sure we're taking a probiotic supplement or eating probiotic foods is that there are some things that can interfere with that gut microbiota. Our Western lifestyles of go, 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 too much stress, or even drinking chlorinated water. The chlorine can kill off some of those good bacteria. We may not be eating a diet that has a lot of fiber. It's the fiber that the good bacteria ferment and keeps them healthy. So if you're not eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, or if you are, but you're eating conventionally raised vegetables that have a lot of pesticides and herbicides on them, those pesticides can kill off and affect our good bacteria. So if you feel like you're not consuming a lot of probiotic foods, which most traditional diets have been including for thousands of years, you may consider that. And then also, if you don't, say you don't like yogurt, kefir, in no way are you going to eat sauerkraut or kimchi, then it really makes it be important to take a probiotic supplement to just reinforce the healthy bacteria living in the gut and make sure you're getting that right balance. So let's talk really quick about how to choose a good probiotic supplement. In general, it comes down to two things. Do you have a specific problem that you're targeting? And then, or do you want to just simply cultivate overall health? So if you are looking for better skin, better mood, urinary tract health, prostate health, there are specific probiotics that are targeted as far as having those certain strains that have been studied to promote the health of those areas of the body. But if you just want overall health, I would look for a multi-strain probiotic that has a variety of different strains and different microbes. And so as far as potency goes, you look at CFUs, most of them will say CFU, which means colony forming units. So that would be the amount of bacteria and colony forming units that would be contained in the product. If you're, just wanting to support overall health, and you from like 20 to 30 billion is a good daily dosage. If you have recently been on antibiotics or really wanting to support any type of digestive concern, you might go up a little bit higher, or you might find a specific strain product that says colon health or digestive health, so that you're really targeting those areas which it might have more bifidobacteria in them. And so those higher strain and potent products are going to be a little bit more expensive. So maybe you use those for a short time to really boost that area, and then you go back to like a lower potency for maintenance. Or say you're someone that has like never taken probiotics, or you maybe have in the past and it upset your stomach. In that case, you would want to kind of stick with a single strain product. Like for example, Culturelle that we sell has just Lactobacillus GG, just one strain. And that strain has been studied very highly to really support the health of the intestinal lining and in a variety of different ways for health. So sometimes you want to keep it simple too. So some people are really sensitive and they may want to start with a single strain like that Lactobacillus GG, or even Reuteri is a single strain product. And both of those are really helpful for maintaining the health of the intestinal lining. So it's important to get those probiotics in, but then what about prebiotics? It's kind of like the new buzzword. You've got to get your prebiotics too. So really, prebiotics are food for the good bacteria. So they ferment fiber in foods that we can't digest. That's their food. So prebiotics are things like inulin, and that's a compound that's found in artichokes, garlic, leeks, onions, and asparagus. So you could eat more of those types of vegetables. You could take a supplement that contains inulin in it. FOS, or fructooligosaccharides, is a type of carbohydrate that's found in a lot of fruits and vegetables that can feed the good bacteria. And then another thing that you can increase that can support and feed your good bugs are something that I call is called resistant starch. So that's like a starch that we do not break down in our bodies, but is fermented by the good bacteria. And those resistant starches are found in grains and legumes and other starchy veggies that have been cooked and cooled. So things like rice that has been cooked and cooled, and potatoes. So like your potato salad, hopefully you're enjoying some potato salad this summer. But once those potatoes have been cooked and then cooled, it does change that structure of the starch, and it can actually feed good bacteria. Pectin is another fiber that can feed the good bacteria, and you can find pectin in all your stone fruits, apples, When I say stone fruits, it's like your peaches, your plums, apricots, oranges, and carrots also have pectin in them. Guar gum, which is extracted from guar beans, which are legumes, can actually feed good bacteria, and sometimes you'll find that. And then sometimes when an animal is like cows are grass-fed, and the cheese, the butter, or the milk that comes from those animals have more butyrate or butyric acid, and that can feed the good bacteria. All right, so you've got to get the good bugs, and then you've got to feed them too. If you are interested in learning any more about probiotics, it's kind of like there's a lot of information out there, so it's interesting to learn. These are a couple of resources for you. Dr. Josh Axe, you may have heard of him before. He has a book called Eat Dirt, and that's a great book to read more about how probiotics can influence your health. If you are interested in creating your own fermented vegetables, the book Wild Fermentation by Sander Alex Katz talks about how health benefits and recipes for all types of cultured foods, anywhere from pickles to kimchi to sauerkraut to kombucha, if you're wanting to make your own. And then if you're wanting to learn more about how the microbiotic can influence the health of your brain, look into the book Brain Maker by David Perlmutter. And we do carry all three of these books in our store, but it's a great one that really shows the power of microbes and how it can influence our brain function. Thank you for joining me there. If you're interested in these slides, those may be included, as well as 2 handouts that really kind of can sum up a lot of information that was presented today. If you do watch this and you would like to come in the store, you do earn a $5 coupon. So come in and let me know, or one of the employees here, that you saw or attended the Power of Probiotics class from Natural Grocers online, and we'd be happy to give you a $5 coupon that you can use in the store. And then also, if you're wondering how probiotics might be or be beneficial for your health individually, I do one-on-one free coaching sessions that you can sign up for online. You go to naturalgrocers.com/coaching. You can set one up with me to further find out how they can benefit you as an individual. Well, thank you for your attention today, and I hope this has given you some good information and maybe spurred you to learn some more.